chilly fall morning out here. No one's out here because at my club, I guess like every club, a lot of old people. And they are smart and staying warm inside. But I'm taking advantage of it. Oh my God. Now, today we're gonna talk about how to score and improve at golf at every single level you're at. My body is very sore today, and I think it's a good opportunity to swing easy and to show you the stages that you should be focusing on how to improve from shooting, if you're not broken 100 yet, if you haven't broken 90, and then 80 to 70, or 80 to scratch golf, I guess. Hopefully I don't do that. Okay, so let's get some of the basics out of the way. You're always going to need to improve almost every area of your game. That's the reality for all time. Getting that out of the way, getting a lesson is also going to be a very easy way to improve, or getting some practice. If you're not getting practice, it's going to be hard for you to work on some of the fundamentals that there are, especially if you're just watching swing change videos all the time on YouTube, and then you're trying to swing changes out on the course. It's not gonna work out that well. Now, most people shooting over 100 and shooting over 90 are gonna walk up to the first tee and pull out a driver and hope for a good result. Hopefully it stays in, okay, it's in. I didn't hit it that well, and that's usually what most people will do. I'm going to talk to you why that is preventing you from scoring well. The reason why people shooting over 90 even, well, through all scores, but especially over 100, is I got lucky with this bounce, right? It could have easily been behind the tree, right on this tree, or even over there out of bounds. And if it hit a branch and went out of bounds, well, now automatically I'm adding a +1 to my score, and I'm fighting for bogey. And the key to breaking 100 and learning how to break 100 is learning how to make bogeys and learning how to stop making double bogeys. You can watch another video on that I made, but let's talk about places and scenarios that are going to cause you to make double bogeys. Now, I'm not dual wielding these clubs right now, but I'm gonna show you two different instances of why hitting driver off the tee all the time is also going to put you in bad positions, even if you don't lose the ball. Now, we didn't lose the ball here, and we have 145 yards to the green. In between clubs for me, the difference is now that I'm in the rough, it introduces more potential for mistakes for the average golfer, right? Because I have pin needles here, I'm in the rough, and it's wet. If I was in the fairway, it's an easy shot, right? I mean, depending on the distance, but still, it's a pretty easy shot. Now I have to decide how much is this lie going to affect my approach shot. So it could fly the green, or it could add a little bit of knuckle and topspin, no spin to it. It could come out very weird, I don't know. So it's very unpredictable, and that introduces a lot more errors than we actually want. Now, of course, we're not always going to hit every fairway, but if my driver is putting me in more bad positions than good positions, I either need to get a lesson and learn my driver, or I need to put the driver away and get like a 5-wood or a hybrid or something like that. So I'm gonna play two different shots, pitching wedges, which is 145, and my 9-iron, which is around 150, maybe 160. So I have the pitching wedge first, and we're gonna play this kind of like a normal shot. And hopefully it goes on. Learning the lies are going to help you get out of bad situations. My feet are unbalanced right now. I have a root under my foot, so my foot is kind of standing like this. I have the ball below my feet, even though it's a flat lie. It's introducing a lot more weird mistakes. So let's see. I don't think it's gonna fly, so it should be all right if I just hit it well. I hit it well. I did not hit it accurate. So right in the rough, right around the green, but it was a good shot. Now, the other thing that you can do on a shot like this, if you are unsure about the lie, which you need to learn, but it's more important the further you go down the scoring, is I can hit a soft 9-iron to the front of the green, and hopefully it runs up. Oh, I pulled it. But the distance was pretty much perfect. So a lot of people are gonna find themselves in this position throughout all of golf, where you don't have a green in regulation and you need to chip on the green. Now the goal from here for people that are shooting over 100 versus shooting in the 80s and the 70s is I just want a putter in my hand after this shot. That's the only thing I want to think about. The lie sucks. I'm right on the edge of the bunker. I can't really get a firm stance. All I want to do is not leave another wedge in my hand after this shot. So what I'm going to do, I have one wedge. You should have one wedge that you know how to hit confidently in all situations and learn all the distances from that wedge. So I have my 54 here, and all I want to do is get it anywhere on the green and two putt. And that is what we call playing for the bogey. I'm not going to get cute with it because I don't need to get cute. I just need the bogey. So this is my third shot, and that's good. We're around the green. We can easily get on the green and two putt. So let's try to see if we can, get a putter in our hand. Oh, we got a putter in our hand, but we are just off the green. I don't know if you can actually see that though. But now from there, we will two putt, hopefully, and we'll talk more about putting as time goes on, but we'll two putt and get the bogey. At least that's the goal. So what do I mean by how do we learn to make bogeys and stop making double and triple bogeys? Well, I dropped my tee. We want to try to leave ourselves in positions that are going to be safe as possible. And by safe as possible, I mean reliable and predictable as possible, rather than in the rough, in the fescue, or obviously out of bounds. So from here on a long par three, if I don't have a club that I feel confident with on getting on a par three, I want to learn how to play the miss. That's the other thing that you are going to be needing to learn at this stage of learning how to break 100 and learning how to break 90 is how do I play the miss? Now, the misses here that are going to get me a double bogey are obviously left out of bounds, right into the thick fescue, right? But the right would probably be a shank, and we can't control that, and then obviously long. This is a 217-yard par three. You're probably not going to deal with that. But I chose this distance because, let's say I don't have a good club for this, what would I do? Well, in front of the green, we have a good flat area. That is predictable, that is safe, and if I can make it to the green, great. I'm going to try to make it to the green. If that introduces a club that I'm not confident with and I'm not good with, and I'm possibly going to hit it poorly, I'm not going to hit that club. I'm just going to try to leave myself in a safe spot. So I have a 6-iron. My 6-iron typically goes around 200 yards. This is for me, but today I'm very sore, so it's probably going to go around 180, which is fine. We just want to leave ourselves in a flat, open area, and that is all in front of the green. Now hit that well. I hit that a little too well, and it went in the bunker. But the point is, ideally, if I wasn't so good, I would just hit that in front of the green. But it's still, the thought process is there. Now, I actually did not hit it into the bunker, and if I hit it straight, it would have been right in front, which is perfect. Now, this is another case where all we want to do is not leave ourselves with another wedge in our hand. A lot of people will walk up here, they don't get a measurement of how far the green actually is. It takes half a second to figure out how far it is. Because once you learn your wedge distances, you know if I got a 20-yard chip, I can just do that, and I know it's going to go 20 yards, ideally, right? But a lot of people, they say it's just a feel shot when they don't practice enough for the feel shot. So all you need to do is get a number. If you walk up and you don't think, and you're just thinking it's an easy shot, or you're nervous about it, you're gonna walk up and go just, oh, now it's in the bunker, right? You're probably not gonna shank it behind you, but the point is you're probably gonna top it over the green, or you're gonna hit it too hard and you're wondering, why did I hit it 10 yards past the green? Well, you didn't figure out how far it actually is. So all we need to know is, hey, we got 20 yards. We're in the rough. All we need to do is make clean contact with the ball, get it over this ridge, and two putt. That's all we want. When I have a wedge in my hand, I want a putter in my hand afterwards. Simple shot to get it on the green. Anywhere on the green is going to leave us in a good position. I don't want to do that, right? Because that is going to introduce. So now, from this position, I am playing for the double bogey. Because at my level of not breaking 100, not breaking 90, I'm not going to have it too close to the pin. When you are standing over these putts and you are either fighting for the bogey or you're thinking, I need to make it for double bogey, we don't want to get into our own head and our own way of thinking, oh, I need to hold this out. You can always think about making it, but we want to think about, how do I get this close to the pin? I can walk off the distance and I can figure out how far is the pin. I didn't walk off the distance, but I'm going to assume that it's around, I don't know, 18 feet or so. Learning your distance control is going to determine, how well you putt in general, but learning your distance control is going to be very essential to scoring better, so you stop three putting. And at this stage, we want to stop three putting. At every stage, you want to stop three putting, but especially at this stage, because you are most likely making a lot of three putts when it's not necessary, because you either don't use the line on the ball or you don't know your distance control. And you can work out your distance control very easily if you just take like 15 minutes of practice and work on making simple putts, right? So now I left myself with, 5 feet. My friends are giving me it. Now I have a tough putt. And now I'm in my head and I'm very likely to miss this because I'm so in my head. And if I miss it, now I'm beating myself up going on to the next hole. So mentally, we also need to control our mental if we make maxes, which at this stage, you're going to max out occasionally, which is fine. You still have plenty of opportunities to break 100. Now, the reason why you want to play for the bogey at this stage is because you don't have all the shots that you need to make pars yet, which is fine. You will get there. That's the confidence that we want to have. However, let's take this hole as a good example where most people may not have the shot, especially depending on the tees that they're playing. For the perfect shot to get on for an ideal second shot on this hole, it's a huge dogleg left. I need around 220 yards to the middle of the fairway so I have an easy look. How many people over 100 have a 220 yard dead straight carry? Probably not many. And the good news is you don't need that, right? We're playing for the bogey. So all I need to do, especially with tricky holes like this or blind holes, I need to leave myself in a position where my second shot is going to leave myself with a good third shot. So I have a 7-iron. Let's just assume that's the furthest and straightest club I can hit. Whatever your distance is, it doesn't matter. Let's just say I'm gonna hit it out there. So I left myself in the fairway because I chose a confident club, and that's all we want. If I chose a non-confident club, I could potentially hit it out of bounds for no reason. I could hit it over there to the right, which then I'm really not gonna have a second shot for on the green for no reason. Instead, play a nice, easy shot that is gonna leave me in the fairway, and then you're making pars and you're making bogeys eventually, and your friends are still maxing out, and you're like, hey, you guys suck. Don't say that though, but kind of. Now you can see, let me zoom out a little bit. So now you can see, hey, we have this tree in the way, the flag is straight through, there's no opportunity for another shot. That's fine. When we play, how do we put ourselves in a good position for the third shot so we can land it on the green for par? All we want to think about is landing it on the green for a par chance and not a birdie chance. By introducing the mindset of getting on for par, one, you're going to be happy that you have par chances, but two, if we two-putt, we get bogeys. And that's what we want. I told you you're gonna go out and shoot a 90 today, you'd probably be very happy. So go out and shoot a 90 by playing bogey golf. Of course, Golf Sidekick talks about it all the time, right? And this is just another perspective. Now, off my tee shot, did it feel, a lot of people may be thinking that, hey, you're good at golf, you're not flubbing these shots. Correct. Because I have worked on my low point control and my improvement, right? And I don't change my swing every 45 minutes when a new YouTube swing coach comes out. You need to stop changing your swing so much. Your swing is good enough, I guarantee, to break 90. Any swing is good enough to break 90 as long as you are not a brand new beginner and you know how to hit a ball. I said in another video, 100 yards. If you have the skill to hit a ball 100 yards, you can break 90. Right? You just need the mindset to allow yourself to actually do that, and that's where most people falter. Most people will get on that green, they pull out like a 5-iron when they don't feel confident with a 5-iron, and because they have an iron in their hand, they swing too hard, they're off balance, and they shank it into the woods. They top it, they chunk it, they do a lot of stupid shit. How do I know? I just played with 2 golfers that have not broken 100, and guess what they did? So here, I'm not gonna get reckless, right? All I wanna do, ideally, 120 yards out there will leave myself with a good 3rd shot, but as long as I get past this tree, I will have a 3rd shot. It doesn't guarantee that my 3rd shot is going to go on. I don't need to think about my next shot, I need to think about this shot. So all I'm gonna do is when I have like a punch shot or something simple that I just need to leave myself, it's like a little, you know, a little simple shot. I just like to have my feet together and swing it like a chip. Now you can put the ball further back in your stance, but sometimes I hit it too hard and it goes too far. So I'm gonna put my feet together like I'm hitting a 40-yard chip shot, and I'm gonna hit kind of like a 40-yard chip shot with an 8-iron. And because of that, I might have even hit a little too far, right? But because of that, now I left myself with a good 3rd shot. And we go from there. And that is how the mindset of playing bogey golf. How do I set myself up with a good 3rd shot? Now to finish off talking about breaking 100 for the first time and to just transition into breaking 90, a lot of people are gonna pull out the driver no matter what I say, even if it is costing you 10, 12 shots around. Why? Because if you lose the ball 5 times with your driver, I mean, you can do the math, right? But if you are determined to use your driver no matter what, you have to think about, how do I not try to swing too hard? Swinging hard is not gonna do you any good. If anything, it's gonna introduce way more problems than you actually need. I can swing easy, I can swing smooth, and smooth, buttery tempo is what you're trying to try to feel. However, it can also depend on a lot of different things depending on your shaft and, you know, the way that you normally swing. So swinging with confidence is going to be kind of a key element. Not swinging hard, but swinging confidently. I'm not gonna be thinking about, don't miss it, I'm gonna top it, I'm gonna shank it, I'm gonna hit it out of bounds, because that's exactly what your body is going to listen to about doing. So let's present 2 scenarios. If my driver, I know my miss is a hook left on this hole, on this par 5, which everyone is gonna pull out a driver. I've showed you how to play a par 5 with a 9-iron. You know, you can watch that video, you don't need to do it. But let's say my hook with my driver is the problem. Well, on this hole, what am I not gonna do? I'm not gonna pull out the driver because it introduces the out of bounds. If I have to pull out the driver because my ego is preventing me from scoring well, then I'm going to aim for the right hand of the fairway. I'm not gonna aim for the trees, I'm gonna aim for the right hand of the fairway. If it goes straight, it's probably gonna bounce into the rough, maybe into the trees, but if I play the draw and the hook, it should at least come back to the fairway, or at least the left-hand rough. The reason why, and this happens with a lot of people that are playing the slice. Say left is out of bounds. If I'm playing the slice, I don't want to aim out of bounds, because if I aim out of bounds and I hit it straight, guess where it's going? Out of bounds, right? So I want to aim for the left edge of the rough or the right edge of the rough on the fairways and play my shot shape. Don't try to force a new shot shape. Just play your shot shape. If you never hit the ball straight before, don't think about hitting it straight this time. Think about playing your shot shape. And I sliced it, and now we're on the other fairway. And for what? No good reason. When I could have chose a 6-iron, I could have chose my 5-wood, I could have chose a hybrid and hit it into the fairway, and now I'm gonna have to get myself over the trees. So that introduced no benefit to me, and it's only costing me a stroke. So instead, what I would want to see is people bring out like a 6-iron, whatever confident club, reliable club you have. So I spoke about reliability in another video, but you can find that on the channel. But all I want to do is find a reliable club. Remember, you just need to divide this par 5 up into 4 shots. So if I have a 6-iron, let's say it's reliable, I didn't hit it well, but it doesn't matter because it's reliable, it's not lost. So it's in the fairway, and then all I need to do is have 3 more shots from there. 3 shots, that's like 130 yards each. It's easy. So let's talk about breaking 90 for the first time. At this stage, you should be nailing down how to play bogey golf pretty well. you should have more bogeys than double bogeys and triple bogeys during the round, but you're still gonna have some double bogeys, maybe even triple bogeys every now and then. That's gonna be golf. The good news is you're also gonna be starting to get some pars every now and then as well. So what is the difference between this stage and breaking 100? Well, there's not too much difference. It's just getting more consistent at one, not losing the ball, and two, making bogeys. So your decision making is going to be a little bit smarter. So even on a tough hole like this, where it's 450 yards par 4 from the white tees, where it's a 450 yard par 4, I need to think, hey, bogey is in play. And we kept it in the fairway. I don't know if you'll see a tracer on that because it's in the sun. Oh, I might be in the bunker. But anyway, so at this stage of learning to break 90, you are going to run into scenarios where you have delusional confidence on your abilities. And you are going to take riskier shots that you won't typically need to because you're like, hey, I know how to make some pars now. But the goal still is you only need one par, depending on, par 70, par 72. You only need one par and the rest bogeys, and you broke 90. However, you're gonna run in positions where you're thinking, hey, I have 240 yards. I know my 3-wood goes around like 240, 230. Well, I'm just gonna hit a 3-wood and I'm gonna have a chance for a par on this long par 4. Well, you thinned it into the bunker right there, and now you're 15 yards ahead. But why would you do that, right? Because you have delusional confidence at this stage. How do I know that? Because I did that I was better than I thought I was. Reality, what you would want to do is you still play for the bogey. That's all you need to keep in your mind is play for the bogey. So instead of trying to go for distances that I am starting to be able to hit now, but it's still my longer irons and the dispersion is high, I'm going to play for shots that are still pretty safe and easy. So instead, I'm gonna hit a 7-iron to leave myself with a wedge in my hand, because at this stage, your wedges should be getting much better. And there we go. We leave yourself with a wedge in our hand, and we're happy because then we can get up and down for bogey. But I don't want to be risky and stupid going for shots I don't need to hit. Now, let's say at this stage, your approach shots are going to be getting less dispersion than when you were shooting over 100. However, your green regulations are still gonna be pretty low. If at any stage above 80s and 70s, your green regulations are high, but you're not breaking 90, your decision making is either very poor or you're having too many blow-up holes. And you need to figure out how to stop the blow-up holes. And that usually is by your decision making and your swing decision making. Now, let's say your swing, you were on the edge of confidence between a shot that I feel comfortable with the iron I feel comfortable with, and also it's a little bit out of my realm of territory. Well, I have 180 yards. Typically that's my 7-iron, right? So if my confident self is telling me, hey, go for it, I can go for it. However, I should know what shot shape does my 7-iron play. Is it going to be a fade? Is it going to be a draw? Does playing a fade introduce any out of bounds or water on this hole? Well, it doesn't. So that means that I can go for it. As long as this dude does not drive through the hole. No, he's behind it, right? So as long as this club on the edge of my confidence does not introduce any out of bounds, go for those green and regulation chances. I hit it poorly. And that's where, all right, we left ourselves with a chip over the bunker, probably, but we're in a good spot where the miss is not that bad. These are the kind of shots where a lot of people are going to introduce a blow-up hole into their situation. I'm on my 3rd shot. I have 70 yards in. It is potentially a fuller swing for some people, maybe not for other people. But you should have a club where I don't need a full swing of my wedge. You should probably never be full swinging any of your wedges or any of your clubs, but especially your wedges. Why? Because if you full swing, you swing too fast, it's just going to float up in the air and you're going to lose distance. Now, you should have a club and you should learn your wedge where I know my 70-yard shot is going to do this. I'm not going to choose a club where it max goes 70 yards, 80 yards, such as like my 60 degree, right? I don't want to choose that club because if I don't hit it well out of here, well, it's going to go like 40 yards, right? I could easily slide right under the rough, and then I'm fighting for a double bogey at that point. I don't want to choose a club that is going to go too far. I'd rather leave it short because in short, there's nothing in the way. So you need to choose a club where it's either potentially going to be short or just on the front. And that's how you play a smarter way as opposed to, of course, on this hole. But you want to play, how do I not leave myself with maxing out on this hole, right? Because I left myself with a tough third shot. And 90 shooters, and even 80 shooters, you can watch the video where I was breaking 80, can easily have a blow-up hole like this. But this is the type of shot where you are in between a good shot, but easily could potentially blow up because you're in the rough with a wedge in your hand, and it introduces a lot of variables that you don't want. So let's see if we can get on the green. Nope, well, because I thinned it and the maintenance was there. Let's talk about transitioning from breaking 90 to then breaking 80s and scratch golf. Now, I played with two scratch golfers a few weeks ago, right? And the big difference between them and myself is two things. One, confidence off the tee, and two, your wedge game. So when you're breaking 90 for the first time, your wedges are going to be getting closer and closer to the pin. Why? Because they're going to leave myself in positions where my third shot is going to be, off the green, or even my fourth shot is going to be off the green, but I should be getting up and down from there. Now, at my stage and beyond, the play doesn't change too much, right? Because at this point, you need to learn how to make pars. So learning how to make pars is a lot different from learning how to make bogeys. Because learning how to make bogeys, you can break down the hole into 3 shots. Learning how to make pars, you're gonna be breaking the hole down into 2 shots, and your second shot should be on or near the green. Most of the time, it's gonna be near the green. This car is not driving through. Right, maintenance is doing their thing. So it's most of the time not going to be on the green, and your wedge game is going to be needing a lot more improvement. Now for me, I can easily string along 7, 8 pars in a row. But my problem is having one blow-up hole, which then if you're trying to break 80, you can't really have, right? So it's learning how to eliminate those blow-up holes. And really the main thing with that is being able to keep your focus. So the lower you score, the harder you're going to need to focus, right? So if you haven't broken 100 for the first time, your focus is going to be a lot different and a lot more strict when you haven't broken 100, right? But then once you start shooting in the 90s, well then shooting 100 is not going to be requiring too much focus. To break 80 and to shoot around, to make more pars, you can't really slip up on your focus that much. So let's try to see if we can make a par. The other thing is, with your driver, your dispersion is going to be a little bit better, but you still aren't going to be choosing driver every single hole, right? Because my decision-making is a lot better than it was when I wasn't breaking 100. I made a video where I played the same course when I was shooting in the hundreds, and I'm shooting now, and you can see the difference in the thought process around approaching. But I'm just choosing driver because I want to swing the driver right now, and I'm not trying to break 80. But I'm going to show you some shots that you are going to need to learn how to make. Big old slice. That's all the maintenance guy got in my head. So many maintenance people out today. But let's talk about scrambling, because breaking 80 is going to require a lot of scrambling anyway. The good news is, once you start shooting in the 80s and the 70s, you have more shots in your bag. So a shot like this, we should have in our bag, because it's simply hitting a 7-iron over the trees. And do we have that? Well, we should. I don't, but I hit it through the trees. That was a bad shot. I'm hitting it pretty poorly today, but that's the point. Now you can see breaking 80 and shooting in the 70s isn't always clean, right? It is going to be filled with bad shots. However, I know if I was taking a very serious round, I would be able to focus up and at least string together more pars. And from here, with a wedge in my hand, I'm always feeling pretty confident about landing it on or at least near the green. Very rarely do I have a really bad shot that I am just shinking it or hitting it poorly. Today, my mind's not there, my body's not there. That's not an excuse, right? But these mistakes, the skill level is kind of an illusion that a lot of people that aren't breaking 90 and shooting in the 100s think they need to have to score that well. You don't. I still feel like I'm the same golfer from when I was shooting in the high 90s. But I know mentally, one, my wedges have gotten better, right? So there is that, but my skill overall, it still feels the same. I just have more confidence that I can string and make better decisions than I was back then when I was mostly choosing driver off the tee every single time and choosing clubs that I was thinking that I needed to go for the par when I didn't need to go for it. Now at this stage, wedges should start to become your best friend. I always want to try to have a wedge in my hand as soon as possible, or at least on my third shot. So imagine if my drive was here, right? I would have a green light into saying, hey, let's go try to land it. I'm always going to try to land it close to the hole, but I would say, all right, we can be a little bit more aggressive on this because we have around 100 yards to the front, and I should know I should be able to land it at least in the front of the green, if not, somewhere close to the hole. But the better you get and as closer you get to scratch, the big difference between a scratch golfer and myself is when they have a wedge in their hand, they're landing it very close and they're getting up and down a lot of the times. It's not more birdies, it's just that their scrambling abilities are much better. And that is the difference between also shooting in the 80s and shooting in the 90s. My scrambling abilities are better because I'm also making better decisions and leaving myself into better positions. My misses aren't as bad, right? So my miss over there was pretty bad, but it's not out of bounds. My second miss was pretty bad, but I got pretty lucky going through the trees, right? But it was still straight. So now, hopefully, my third shot is not. But let's play two different shots. So that one is a little bit of a safer shot, right? It is rolling onto the front. Oh, look at that. Oh, it just kept rolling. But we probably have ourselves like a 8-footer, maybe, right? But we have a chance for par. And my putting is obviously going to get a little bit more safe at this stage, but this ground is very firm, so I did not expect that. Now, this is where it becomes a little risky between shooting in the 80s and shooting in the 70s, is my aggressive wedge shots are going to have more dispersion than a 70 shooter. And because of that, I got dirty grooves. Because of that, you're not gonna have, close birdie chances. And your par chances, you should still be able to feel pretty confident with two putting. So I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive and we're gonna see if there's any difference in the result. Now I had like no spin, but the landing spot was pretty much pin high. If it had spin on it, and if I cleaned my grooves, well then it probably would have dead stopped straight a little bit there. But that's gonna be the big difference between shooting in the 70s and the 80s. Now the other difference between shooting in the low 70s and the 80s is going to be shots like these, right? And this is something that I'm working on a little bit more right now. When I have a shot like this, somebody shooting scratch or in the low 70s is probably going to leave it within a tap-in distance, from the hole. Whereas I can leave myself with still like 6 to 8 feet, which still gives me a putting chance, but it's not a tap-in distance every single time. So I need to work on hitting these shorter, 10, 20, 30-yard chip shots and landing it within a little tap-in distance. Right? Ooh, it had no spin. But that is something where you saw it came out way too low. That was just a bad shot. But it landed, it checked up a little bit, but it didn't have enough spin. Being able to work on these shots is what's going to take my score from where it is now, low 80s, to low 70s. And that's not what you want to do. So what happened there was I played it way too slow. If you play a flop shot, you need some speed. And you shouldn't be really hitting a flop shot like this. This is just kind of a nice, simple, this is a very tough shot for a lot of people because once you start getting better with wedges, you start understanding spin a little bit easier and you understand how hard it is to kind of get a little bit more spin unless you are elite on short shots like this. So to generate spin with a wedge, you are going to need clean grooves and speed. And getting speed on a short shot like this is pretty tough because I can easily hit it too far. So the smart thing would be hitting a little bit bump and run and going up there, but with it being very wet, you also understand your conditions a lot better shooting in the low 70s and the 80s of, all right, if I hit it very wet and there is spin on it, well, it's just gonna stop in the wet rough. Hitting like a pitching wedge and letting it run up is probably the smart play, but I don't practice that much. And that is a shot that took me from shooting in the 100s to shooting in the low 90s, a little bump and run. But let's try a nice little chip shot from here again and land it softly on the green. And we go from there. Still a little short, but you get the point, right? So my wedges need to get better where they are always going to land within 6 feet and I have a putting chance, because these putts are not giving me. The last thing that you want to learn is putting. Your putting has to get better and better. Your putting really is going to be pretty much the same from 100s to the 70s, right? You're going to be giving yourself more one putt chances because your wedges are going to get better. But the distance from here, all of these putts, I mean, a 100 shooter and a 70 shooter is probably going to be hitting the same putts, right? You're not making a lot more birdies in the 70s. You were just making more pars, right? So I'm still focusing on 2 putting from here, but at least I have a little bit more distance control and confidence that I can make a putt. But the putt should land at least within 2 feet from the pin on my distance control at this level. And I made it. See? That's all we need. Now the other thing is focusing on where you're landing the ball is going to also leave yourself in good putts. Now people, when you get better with a wedge in your hand, then you're going to give yourself more control over where you're landing the ball as long as you understand the course. So I have a downhill putt and it's going to be a lot harder than an uphill putt. Why? Because the speed is going to be a lot different. The speed on these are very quick. You may not be playing very quick greens, you may be playing very slow greens. However, the thought process is still the same. I need to take off a lot more hitting downhill than I would uphill. And the break is still going to play an effect, potentially even more, because I'm taking off speed. So if I want to take out the break, well then I run the risk of hitting it 8 feet past the hole, if not further. So you leave yourself with tough positions where, okay, I should have, with the wedge in my hand, left myself shorter rather than longer and uphill, because the putting chance from there is going to be better than it is from here. And that comes with course knowledge and course management. I speak about that in other videos, but your knowledge on approaching with wedges is going to be a lot different once you start getting better and better. When you're shooting in the 100s and the 90s, it doesn't matter. You should be thinking about, I mean, it does matter, but you should still be thinking about just get it on the green and then try to 2-putt from there, right? So if I am shooting in the 90s and the 100s, what I used to envision is a big old hula hoop around the pin. That helped me, right? So I knew if the hole was this big and I can land the ball here, right? Okay, one, my friends would probably give me that, but if not, that is like a 3-foot putt, I can make that, right? So the hole being this big is going to give me a lot more confidence than if I need to try to land it in the hole. So a 100 shooter would be trying to land the ball like around here. Right? Because from there, one, if your friends give it to you, if you give it to yourself, you can do that. But you should be able to work on your putting enough where these putts are pretty easy. It's not a guarantee, but they're still pretty simple. It's thinking the same thing. How do I hit it next to that hula hoop? Now, do I need to be a little bit more aggressive with it? Probably not. I'm still thinking the same thing. I should know that it's downhill. At this stage in the 90s, you're thinking, how do the slopes really play? You should always be learning this, but you should be focusing on the putting skills, because I don't need to think about 3-putting the better I get, because naturally my body knows how to not do that as much, if that makes sense. So from here, the 90 shooter is going to be thinking about, yeah, I want to make it, but if I leave myself with another second putt, how do I not leave myself with a terrible second putt? But the goal still is that big old hula hoop. Hula hoop confirmed, right? Now from here, if I'm an 80s or a 70s shooter, I need to be thinking about how can I make it? And that's where a lot of people, once you see obviously pros as well, they start hitting it a little bit past the hole, right? Because then you can watch the break a little bit more. Leaving myself with a tough downhill putt for my second putt to tap it in is going to be a little bit risky. Leaving it on the side where there's going to be more break and downhill is going to be risky. So I'd rather leave myself with a slightly uphill putt rather than a second downhill putt. So I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive, if not make it from here if I'm shooting in the 70s. Oh, don't hit the other ball. I'll just make it. Well, there you go. All right. Very simple, easy game. Go about your life. I don't know why people say putting is hard. It's the easiest part of golf. You just need a little bit of confidence, some distance control, and some big old ball. In conclusion, let's wrap up a little bit. If you're not breaking 100, you need to learn how to make bogeys. You don't need to learn how to make pars yet because you are not at that stage. If you're looking to break 90, you need to nail down making bogeys and you will naturally learn how to make pars. Beyond that, you need to learn how to make pars. So your scrambling is going to be getting much better than it was when you were not breaking 90. So your wedges are going to be a huge focus. You still don't need to learn driver. You can, but you don't need to. You don't need to, I mean, golf is not even a driver sport until you're getting into tournament golf, right? Because then you need birdies. So I need to get it on the green for birdie chances. I would love to get a pro on here to speak about their mindset versus my mindset, but their approach to scoring is birdies and pars, right? So they are always playing for the birdie. So they see a hole like this and they're thinking, all right, 280 to carry the bunker. I have a driver that can do that. So they should be thinking, all right, how do I get it up there? And then from there, their wedge should be doing all the work. But this is the stage, or if you're playing tournament golf or you are learning how to play golf and you want to play tournament golf, you should be thinking, all right, I need birdies. Any stage before that, you don't need birdies. They're fun. Hitting driver is fun. I know, we all love it. But you don't need to hit driver to score well. And if you haven't broken 100 and you want to break 100, you need to learn how to break 100. And learning driver is probably going to send you in the wrong direction to do that. It can help, and if you get a coach, do it. But if you're not getting a coach, then learning driver is probably going to be not where your time needs to go. I spoke about it in another video, but if you even hit a good drive, can you take advantage of a good drive? All right, so let's try to hit a good drive. I did not hit a good drive. I hit it off the bottom of the club face. All right, let's just not play a fade today. Let's play the normal draw. And I hooked it. Well, that's why I'm not scoring birdies.